morning. So checking a pivot here. Basically every morning I'll check every dripper on the pivots that are running or the wells that are running. This pivot right here, it's got a little underground. It'll go up the hill here to the pivot point. That's facing kind of east, just to give you a position. But nope, that one looks good. Let's go on to the next. I got an area up here where I got quite a few pivots that were within probably 2 or 3 miles of each other. So a lot of times I'll just hop on the four-wheeler and kind of buggy around on that, so I'm not starting and stopping all the time with my pickup. Right now I got to start this pivot. It's for those of you who kind of been with me for a while, I got one that has a power line that splits it. It's a high line. So every time one comes up to a stop, I got to flip valves and start it and throw it the other way. So there's 2 pivots on this field. I'll show you here shortly. But we're going to head out there and get her started. Got one over there that's running. One over there that's running on the other side of the pickup. Big ones. I don't know if you can see this far, but yeah. So yeah, and then there's one probably a couple miles over this way. And then the one we were just at. Get my sunglasses / goggles. Hey look, this guy sprayed his weeds. Finally. See, I do spray them. It's just I usually wait till they get about waist high. So here's our tin, used tin, just in case if we may need that again. Close that guy. So we're gonna tell the well to be controlled by this pivot here instead of that pivot over there. So they tell me this is what does that. So I've been flipping it for years. To do this, I gotta use both hands. A little bit of a hum. Okay, for those of you who might notice, why does he run it on 100%? That's to let our pivot controller run it. I run it through an app, the speed of the pivot. Get a little ways out here. So if I put it on 100, it lets it control it through that whole range, or at least that's how this one works. I don't know if the other ones work. Because the way this pivot monitor works, it just basically goes to the end tower. It's on the end tower that controls everything. So you're still using your original panel box and everything else. Some of the other ones you'll change out your center point panel box, that blue thing right there that I just turned it on with. They'll have like a computer screen and stuff like that. They're a little more fancy, a little more expensive, but on those as well is you can sometimes start and stop as well. So there's just different levels. The main things we like to have is the ability to shut them off and just to be able to see where they're at, making sure they're running and control the speed and guns. The big shooter at the end of the pivot, you can control those and fine tune them instead of using an adjustment on the center point. But I'm gonna add some oil to this guy, then he should be good. So as you can see, this year I used an insectigator or a chemigator. I haven't quite put it away yet. I need to clean it out, which it's easier to do this one here since it's a 3-phase. You have to have 3-phase power to run this one. Kind of like our other fertigation pumps. This one's just heavier. It works really good, it's heavier, so I don't like to move it around as much if I don't have to. I have some other ones that are a little bit smaller. They're 20 gallon and their pump's lighter. But no, I need to clean this one out and then take it back home or to the farm and put it in the shed, winterize it. If you remember, these are the tanks that we put our fertilizer on through this year. It was a lot handier to have the fertilizer in the field. If you remember my last video, we did some fertigating through that about a month ago or even more. Sorry I haven't been throwing them out quite like I should, but I'm getting older. Way easier to fertigate through just having it already stored at the field. Bowie Fertilizer brought it out to the field for us in their truck, so we didn't have to haul it individually out, you know, with pickups. There was 2 of them I had to haul to with my pickup. The other one that wasn't on the video, I got stuck. I made it to the pivot point, but I got stuck because I stopped too soon. So I ended up going back home, getting a longer hose, and just running a long hose to the pump, and then just getting it empty that way. That way I could get rid of it. That's what these things are for. And what we're trying to do with that is just to make our fertilizer more efficient. Especially nitrogen's our biggest use fertilizer, and it's more mobile through the soil. That's why spreading it out kind of helps a little bit. We don't do that to every field. It's kind of ones with pivots that are easier to do, kind of a more square circle, easier to apply. Some of the other ones we won't do that to. That's me rambling on that one. On to the next one. So this is one of our newer fertigation pumps we bought this year. They even put her name on it. But it's a lot smaller. We're definitely going to be using more of these if they hold up in the future, because they are half as light, which makes it easier. All right, back on the road. Before we get out of this field though, this is probably our most hail on any field this year. Right before the 4th of July came through, we got some pretty good hail that just hit like this field pretty much only. So if you're Tom Brady, the next field is only a stone's throw away. It really didn't see, its leaves were just kind of a little bit tattered up. But this one got quite a bit more defoliated, but it still had a few more leaves to shoot out before it tasseled. So the top leaves aren't bad, but then we got some more wind after that that kind of tattered them up some more. So this field will be kind of a question mark. As you can see, we got some green snap as well. So like that one broke off above the ear and died. But see, it just can't quite fill out that ear. See how he's kind of got a smaller ear on him? You know, he ain't very big. We're starting to dent here. We're getting pretty much full dent on some of this. But then you go along and this guy got a pretty decent ear, but then there's nothing right there. So this one will be kind of a wild card to see where it's going to land. Some of the ears out here look really good. Some of them don't. So it'll be just kind of interesting to see where this ends up. You can just kind of see it as you go along. You'll see one every once in a while that's kind of brown, that got green snap. And then just, you know, some of the leaves got tattered. What we did right after it, or not, sorry, too long after it, I did put a fungicide application on it just to kind of help it not have any more stress than it already had. That was one way we kind of helped it. And we still had another application of fertilizer that we went ahead and still put the fertilizer on just to kind of give it a boost, because corn can take off pretty good if it's got what it needs. The thing we didn't want to do is have a bunch of down corn if we can help it. It just makes a mess. We still try to farm it to the end. It was still in that range where it's got potential, but yet, you know, the top end's taken out of it. So we'll see where this one ends up. It'll be interesting. Also, some of the hills kind of took it worse than maybe this area. This is kind of in the bottom as we go up the hill. You know, especially if they were facing to the northwest, they took a little bit more. Unfortunate fly death. so far this year, or this field of beans. Kind of like normal, they kind of look like rear end till about the end of July, and then they finally balloon out, and then they get about as tall as this four-wheeler handlebars here, and they end up usually looking okay. Same thing's kind of true for most of the beans this year. Whew, it's dewy out this morning, but yeah, that's where we be. Right now they're just kind of filling out their pods. You kind of hoping they're filling clear to the top. These are still a little bit flat yet on these very tips, but there's a 4-bean pod. Then you just hope for the rest. Guessing yield on a beans, like guessing where a woman wants to eat tonight. You know how that goes. But they look pretty decent for the most part. We did have some light spots that never quite fully filled in on some hills. And what we're kind of thinking, it's just herbicide carryover from last year on those really light soil spots that just didn't get flushed. For those of you who know herbicides, Resicor was kind of one we used last year that just kind of seemed to linger a little longer. The stinger in it just seems to kind of hold things back. So that's kind of what we're thinking, with a multitude of maybe other things that kind of just go on in those light soil spots. But they're not very big. They filled in pretty good. And so it's not a huge concern right anymore. But nope, it'll be interesting to see how these do. We do have some on some gravity fields that are showing some symptoms of some sudden death syndrome. And that's even when we treated them with some of those. But yeah. I'm getting too chatty here. I guess as I'm driving by these, this is a dryland corner. As you can see, they're kind of starting to take it in the shorts. You can see kind of where they're turning white out there and dying basically. I mean, it's not unusual for us to happen this time of year. That's why we have irrigation out here. Thank God we have an Ogallala aquifer, or else we wouldn't be doing a lot of this stuff. Probably be wheat. Could you imagine? Oh man. But no, out there, they're probably finished when they start to turn brown and die. Even if we got a rain now, it may perk up some of the green ones, but it's all but done for some of those. You get these streaks there that kind of held a little bit more water longer. As you can see, there's that pivot corner, and yeah. So this week really started turning these the other way, which everybody kind of knew would happen. Okay, this guy, before I start him, I wanted to change the oil filter in him, or fuel filter. Jeez, long-winded. Gravity. this one I just have to flip those valves on, and then it's sending it where I already got some rows set. I just got to wait for it to come down here just to make sure nothing's blown out or, you know, worse. But on the other side, kind of the tone when I said gravity is, the other day, usually I cycle this back and forth on a surge valve. Well, I'm not running it on the other side because I got to pull some of the pipe apart because one of the plastic pipes split when I was flipping the flip valve. It was normal situation. I didn't do anything wrong. It's just the pipe's getting older and it just split right down the center. So I got to replace the pipe over there. So we'll see how that works out here. But no, I'm waiting for the water to get diverted down this way, and then we'll go from there. This cracks me up. You okay? Now this pipe here isn't ideal, but he's close by and he's my only option. Now I can set this surge valve. This guy right here. Sorry, the grass is in the way, but this pushes the water back and forth automatically, surging it back and forth. I can turn it back on. Hit run. Now it's going to shift it the other way, slowly but surely. But for these hard to get to rows right behind the well, I run a garden hose. Then every about like 48 hours, since it's just kind of a trickle, I'll move it the other way. Like I said, not the best pipe, but it's like sunscreen on a suntan. It's like sunscreen on a sunburn. Well, it's almost noon and it's 96, so it should be cooling off here shortly. Thanks for riding with me this morning, guys. We will catch you on the next one. Later.